Welcome, everybody, and thank you for joining us for episode 6 of Insert Coin to Play. I am your host, Greg. With me today is Ariel.
Hey.
And our other friend, Cheech.
What's up, guys?
So, if you guys are listening to this on Friday, the 19th of 2016, just reminding you guys that the Division beta is starting this weekend, and it's open. Therefore, all you have to do is download it if you want to try it. And it's for all three systems, PC, PS4, and Xbox One. Yep. So we got a lot. This week wasn't too many new releases. There were two major ones, I would say. One earlier this week, one coming out tomorrow. And we're going to talk about some of the new releases and some of the problems that the new releases has happened this week. As Cheech and Eric can tell you about a specific one that was on Tuesday. And then after, we're going to go through the news and any other cool stuff that we have seen online. Well, let's get to it. So the major new release of this year, which had very high potential, which a lot of people were ecstatic for, was Street Fighter V.
Okay, and it didn't have very high potential. All right, it's perfect.
It's nowhere near close perfect. In a year from now, it will be.
So many different opinions.
We have a lot to talk about this because over the weekend I think we were just pretty much bullshitting and wasn't playing anything. I know I was playing Diablo 3. I kind of power leveled Cheech's characters in Diablo 3. And Ari, what were you playing, or were you just resting?
Oh man, I was having a blast playing Mario Kart, and Smash, and Xenoblade. Man, I was having so much fun with the Wii U.
And all that AA.
Yeah, man.
It all came downhill to Tuesday, where he's like, "F the Wii U, time to Street Fighter."
Yeah, come Tuesday or come Monday night. Actually, that's it. It was a wrap, man. I haven't touched it since, but that's okay. You know?
Monday night, you threw it out the window. Then you try to log on to the Street Fighter servers and disappointment.
I wasn't disappointed at all. I mean, I knew there was going to be issues. I mean, it's to be expected with most online games. Like, at least day one, you're going to have a really hard time with everybody trying to get on and things like that. But I didn't expect it to be as bad as it was with the constant disconnects. But even then, personally, I was okay with it because, again, I knew I was going to get rectified. So, I mean, for Cheech, it was completely different, though, because Cheech just wanted to play the thing. I mean, he hasn't played a fighter in so long, right? And he got jazzed towards the end for this game that, we've been talking about. So I could understand his disappointment coming from that level, especially with a lot of the things that I'm sure a lot of you guys, as well as, you guys are aware of, the, quote unquote, missing single player content. Which is, although it doesn't matter so much to me, it matters to a shit ton of people. Because that's where they want to practice, they want to do their arcade modes and things like that. So it's completely understandable. But personally, I've been having a blast with that game. I mean, once the little netcode or server hiccups, started getting resolved, it got a lot better. Now you get matches constantly and so on. But yeah, I've been having a blast with it, man. And I get the backlash that it's been getting, but none of that stuff really bothers me so much.
Cheech, your thoughts?
Oh, Street Fighter V. So, I should have put this. It's probably one of the best games so far this year, and at the same time, one of the worst games possible. But this is my point of view. So, I mean, in terms of content for story mode and whatnot, people just can't complain about that. Because it's not like Capcom has been hiding that. They had been saying that since the game had been announced, where like, hey, story mode won't be available. It's going to be available for summer, and so on and so forth. The biggest thing about Monday and Tuesday for me was, like Ariel said, I did want to play the game. I haven't gotten into the fighting scene in a while, and being that this is a Street Fighter that has been pretty much worked up from the ground up and it's new, so it gives new players a chance to start learning things again. So I was like, hey, heck it, let's go for it. It's a bare bone game. And if they had one job, and one job only, was to, hey, let's pump out the servers. Let's rent some servers, maybe. It's just to get prepared. And this completely failed at it miserably. So, I mean, yes, granted, you got survival mode and you got a little story thing going on and whatnot. Keep people busy a little bit. I mean, I just spent all day training, trying to get used to a few things. But online was my main concern with the game, and that failed. Luckily, they stepped it up on Wednesday. So when it comes to the game actually working, and when you're playing matches online, it's quite possibly one of the best game I have played. I mean, I haven't gone to sleep at 1 o'clock in the morning in a weekday in a while. And trust me, by no means I'm a god of playing Street Fighter. I've been getting my ass whooped left and right, but I'm learning a few things. I'm beating people up again. So it's a fun game. The mechanics are there. The mechanics are spot on. They're perfect. They will evolve the game as the year goes on. I believe they did mention that they plan this game to last the entire generation. And I'm pretty sure it's going to get better for now. Those are my thoughts right now, for now.
So when you guys say that the game is bare bone, you said, so there's only what, a story mode for each character? Is there a survival?
Yes, there is a survival. There's a story mode that lasts, I guess, 10 minutes each, because it's not even that long.
Okay, the story mode varied. The current story mode, what it is that you have
an introduction to the
a certain set of fights per character. Some characters have more fights than the others, but the max you're getting is about 4 fights, per specific character. I think the least amount of fights was probably 2 or 3, maybe, within that story mode. And that's just to give you a little bit of background on the characters, it seems like. Clearly there's no arcade mode, and arcade mode is where the story usually used to lie in the past with Street Fighter, and where you find it in a lot of fighters nowadays, with the exception usually being Mortal Kombat, that has a separate story mode that you actually play through and fight through. But with this one, it was like, it seems to me like they said, let's strip the little ending cutscenes and the little rival scene that we would have in arcade mode, and just put the character story separately, so that people could, get a little bit of background on these characters. And then they could just, if they want to play the computer, they can just continue to play survival mode and work towards something. In this case, what you're working towards is new colors, alternate colors for the individual characters that you're playing survival mode with. So if you're playing easy mode, which I would suggest everybody go ahead and play easy mode right away, survival, because you'll unlock a quick alternate color for, your preferred character. And that's only 10 matches, and you could get through that, in a breeze. Then move up to normal. You have, a few more matches added to that. I don't remember if it was 20 or so. And then it kind of goes ramping up and up and up. But what I found is that even making it to Hellish, right? Well, I mean, I didn't finish hard. I started out with Hellish, and then I moved backwards since I learned. But with Hellish, it starts out really easy also, and it only starts getting harder as you continue, you gradually continue to beat these opponents and, start passing the 20 fight mark and whatever, because I believe with Hellish it's 100 fights to finish it up. So, I mean, there's stuff there. It just, you kind of, I don't know. I would say that if you're new to fighting games, or you haven't played Street Fighter ever, or you don't really have much interest in Street Fighter or didn't before, and you're going in fresh, you're going to be heavily disappointed. Now, if you're a fighter fan, you're a Street Fighter fan, you're going to love this game. So it's very divisive, I guess, for new players and for the seasoned players, like people who just play fighters in general.
Yeah, it's a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
And it comes back to, if you're interested in playing the game and you're saying, hey, maybe I just wait later for it, I'll say don't, in a way, because a lot of people are literally relearning the game. There's a lot of new stuff. This is not your typical Street Fighter like it used to, like we mentioned before. This has been reworked, and the more you wait, the harder it's going to be when you go online, and you're going to get beat up to the ground, and it's harder to learn. But now is the best time to get in there and just try learning with everyone else.
Yeah.
Well, see, that's very interesting, because a lot of the complaints that I heard here were like, oh, there's no arcade mode. But the way you described it, survival mode is kind of like arcade mode.
Yeah,
Survival mode is arcade mode. Think of it as a never-ending. Well, it ends, but a longer-lasting arcade mode. Take away the little rival cutscene and the ending cutscene of the game. Now that's all put together separately in their individual story modes. So they literally took apart arcade mode, and made it to where you can play the little story so you could see it quicker. But also, if you would just want to keep fighting the computer, you can keep doing so as well.
Survival.
The difference there is that you can't select the individual opponent that you want to fight via a versus CPU. But even then, doing versus an individual versus CPU, it's not that beneficial, really. I would think it's better to just fight different opponents to get a better understanding as to what they can possibly do. Yeah. That's just my take on it, though.
And that brings me to thinking, like, if you guys ever played Mortal Kombat 10, there was an overall story arc that you can play, story mode. But then if you did one of the towers with any of the characters, they actually had their own individual story and ending.
Yeah.
And the problem is that you had to go through 10 matches for each character. And I was kind of interested. I was like, what's his name? The guy with the guns? Oh, I forgot
his name's not. All I keep thinking is Sonic Fox because that's who he plays.
Yeah, he's one of the new characters. Yeah. But he was really interesting, and I played with him, and I saw his ending. And I was like, oh, cool, I want to see more of the endings. But after a while, it just really did become a grind. Like, I wanted to know their story, but I didn't want to keep on doing 10 fights over and over again. And I lowered the rounds to like one round, but it still takes a lot of time. So I kind of actually do like that approach. Now that you guys mentioned it, with the
separate story mode,
with the separate story, yeah. But yeah, that would be not a deal breaker, but that is kind of sucks. So the training mode, when you do pick a CPU, can you make them attack, or is there only just a dummy?
You could choose dummy mode and set up different things that you wanted to do, like just block only, jump, or whatever you want to do. You can set it to CPU, and then you also have levels. So it starts off at 4 and goes up to 10, I believe.
Oh, so you could put a CPU in the training mode.
Yeah, you could put a CPU and have the CPU beat the hell out of you.
Yeah, so that's not that bad then, because that's what someone would want to do if they want to train against a specific character, right?
Yeah. Beyond that, though, what I'm not sure if Mortal Kombat did this type of training mode. Actually, they did. They did have a record feature. The best feature that they have in training rooms, right, or the lab, as most people call it, is the fact that you're able to record the opponent that you selected, right? So let's say if you're trying to main, in Cheech's case, Rashid, you may want to select as your opponent somebody who you tend to have trouble with to kind of work out scenarios with. So let's say that opponent is Ryu. You're having trouble with his zoning game or his fireballs. So in that case, what you can do via the training room is go to the menu, go over to the dummy settings, essentially, and you can then record a certain sequence. So let's say you hit record now. Instead of you controlling Rashid, you're going to be controlling Ryu, and you're going to see a little record button up top. So at that point, what you can do in this case, let's say, is just start throwing a bunch of fireballs for about 5 seconds, and then you go back to the menu and play back what you just did with Ryu. And now you're controlling Rashid again. So at this point, you can just practice either neutral jumping up to get your timing better in terms of evading fireballs, or finding ways for you to get in on somebody who likes to throw fireballs by way of the dummy continuously throwing fireballs at you. So this is why I think the training room is the ideal place to practice the game, when you're not necessarily playing anybody else, because you can create these scenarios that you may see online or that somebody caught you with, and then practice against countering that, so that you yourself can improve as a player. But yeah, it's a very fully fledged training room in that sense. You can view all the attack data, all the input data and stuff like that you can see if you're having execution errors. So it's fully fledged for sure. And if you're looking to improve your game, I would say, aside from fighting people, that's the next place you want to be in.
Okay, so they did a good job on the training room compared to a lot of the things I heard. So the game doesn't really seem too bare bone. I mean, one of the biggest things compared to the other fighting games is like that overall story arc, and more comparing it to like Mortal Kombat, they do have more modes, but it doesn't seem as bad as a lot of people make it to be.
Yeah, where's my store? There's not even a store yet.
Yeah, I mean, you can clearly tell, and this is where I agree, you can clearly tell the real release for this game was meant to be March. You could tell, and by that, it has to be the fact that the store, like Cheech mentioned, is missing. I mean, who launches a game without a store?
Especially nowadays. They want people to buy stuff.
Yeah. So you can't even buy the alternate costumes, none of that. So clearly they released it ahead of what they may have planned for a full release. And, by that I mean including the challenge room, which, that's missing. A challenge room is a good thing to have for newcomers also, for people who may not know how to create combos and things like that, to have it's similar to the Street Fighter 4 trials, which you've done, Greg. I'm not sure if you ever got around to that, Cheech. But they're bringing back the trial system, and that presents you combos that you can practice. If, again, you don't know how to create combos or how to go about making a combo and things like that. So that's going to be introduced next month, and the fact that that wasn't introduced early on, especially for the newcomers who picked it up early, is a bit of a letdown for that crew, because, they could have used something to help them along the way, a bit more training. Aside from just the intro sequence that you get.
Yeah, those trial runs in Street Fighter 4. But did they have it when 4 was released, or was it when it was Super Street Fighter 4?
Unfortunately, I don't remember when exactly they started the trials. I don't remember if it was in vanilla Street Fighter 4. But it's been in there for a while.
Yeah, that was a good move because, like you were saying, it was. I'll take Ryu for an example. It'll tell you do a Hadouken. Do a Dragon Punch.
Stop mentioning my nightmare. God damn it.
Do a Hurricane Kick. And then the more and more you proceed, it'll be like, okay, you can actually do this combo. Do medium punch, like low, medium kick. And then now you can chain it to a fireball.
Yeah.
So that was actually a really good guide. And considering that it comes out in March, I guess that would have been a better time. But this is one of those games where they were pushing it to be an esport, and the reason why I want to say I'm guessing, or thinking that it was released this early, and you guys might agree with me, is because they wanted to just get it in the hands of people.
Well, that mainly, although the
people have to train for Evo and everything.
Yeah, that's the main reason why they released it early. They needed to get it in the hands of people, the pros, competitors, people who see themselves competing at Evo, at the Capcom Pro Tour. Because it starts soon, they needed to ensure people had some time with the game, and the only way they could really do that at this point is to release it as, with an adequate time frame, and that turned out to be February. So, I mean, in a sense, a lot of people are saying it's early access, Yeah, possibly in that sense, because some of the content that should have possibly been there, again, like the challenge room and stuff like that, is missing. But that's fine, though, because even with early access, when you pick up early access, you don't expect a complete game right away. They're going to deliver the rest of the content, even though you paid full price for it, or whatever it is that they were charging.
It's an episodic game. Once again, we fell for it. But then again, I mean, it's I don't know why people are acting extremely surprised about it, because Capcom was no hiding it. They pretty much said it, especially towards the release of the game. They've been saying a lot. Okay, you're gonna get this, and that, after launch.
Yeah, they had a map. They had a screenshot of the map of when each character is getting released, when the storyline is getting released. Like, they literally threw everything in front of everybody because, hey, this is how the game's going to be.
Like, the only complaint and the only valid complaint that people should be having, okay, all right, you had a crappy launch. That's it. That was the main complaint that you could possibly have, and a legit one.
And another one, aside from the fact that the online for something like this wasn't working day one, they got it fixed pretty quickly, to be fair. A lot of companies may have taken more, don't even get me started on Mortal Kombat, but, whatever. But they did a pretty good job at responding, and they're still working to fix this stuff. I mean, we may not be getting updates, on an hourly basis, but they're releasing the kind of the roadmap of what they're going to be addressing along the way to kind of fix these issues. But for the most part, the online is working fine right now. Lobbies are working fine. But that was my biggest thing right there. you're only allowing for 1v1 online lobby. So if you want to play your friend, let's say, who's on the PS4, or let's say you have a group of 5 friends, you could only play one at a time. The hell is that?
Well, the 8-man lobby is not until March, isn't it?
8-man lobbies will be coming in March, yes. So in March, the timeline is essentially going to be the release of the first DLC character, which just by completing the regular story mode, which gives you some backstory on the characters, will give you enough, I believe it's fight money, to purchase Alex. So, you get the character for free. Aside from that, in March, you're also going to have the challenge trials, which we were just discussing. The increased lobby, so you're going to have more players in there, and they're going to be introducing the shop.
So, Cheech, since you're getting back into fighting games, let me ask you this, and you may not even notice it as eagle-eyed as Ariel, but how are the mechanics? Like, is there any times where you felt like you punched a character, but it missed when it wasn't supposed to? Or does everything seem spot on in your attacks?
Honestly, things seems to be spot on so far, but I did, because I've been browsing the Street Fighter Reddit, and there seems to be a lot of complaints where some of the hitboxes are not right.
Oh, so okay. Well, that's what I was gonna say. Like, in your eyes, since you're just getting back into the fighting scene, like, so the majority of the mechanics seem like it's solid.
Yeah, it seems solid. There seems to be a lot of depth with the V triggers and stuff that they added now. You just got to learn the characters, to be honest. You got to learn your opponent, and you got to learn your own characters, because things could go south at any moment in that game. And I've been out of the fighting scene for a while, and so far it's been pretty good. Hasn't been bad.
So, I heard there's another bad thing that they kind of messed up on, and that's people rage quitting. And if people rage quit in the middle of a match, there really isn't any consequences to their actions. Have Ariel or Cheech, have any of you faced that? Cheech?
I have personally have not encountered it yet.
I have encountered it 2 times. And it's a little frustrating, but at the same time, I think it was during a time where it didn't even seem like it was recording the match at that point in terms of like who won, who lost. So it didn't matter so much, but at the same time, it's like, actually, no. Capcom did say, from what I saw earlier, that although it doesn't show on screen, it is recording it behind the scene in terms of who won, who lost. But in this case, when somebody rage quits, they don't get a loss. So that ends up sucking for you because now the match is null and void.
Yeah. Okay, so, they addressed it. They said they were fixing it at least. So it's one of the things that you can look forward to whenever they patch it. But, I gotta say, they are doing pretty well in terms of info. Because yesterday, when there was problems with the server, if you go to Capcom Unity, they had a post about it and post certain things that there were problems with the PC. And if you go today, they actually made another post. So it's like update V.2.
The main complaint with PC players right now is the controller input, which kind of makes sense in a way. You're making a game that is exclusively for PS4 when it comes to consoles, and then you have crossplay with PC. Yet you do not add the X input for the PC.
Yeah.
What?
Wait. What input's not being added?
Direct input.
Yeah, direct input.
Oh, so there's a slight lag.
No, there's no lag.
There's no support for the Xbox. For the PS3 or PS4 controllers.
Yeah.
Oh.
So everybody that has a stick for PS3 or PS4 does not work natively on PC right now. You have to go through different mods and a program that will kind of configure it for you. They are looking into it. They will respond to it, but come on now. The game technically should have it on the go because it's being made on PS4.
Wow. That's really interesting. I have a 360 stick here, but I don't have Street Fighter for PC, so I can't say.
My stick is a PS3 stick. Essentially what I use is Joy to Key, which is pretty easy to configure. There's other methods. I believe you could use 360 or XEMU or some shit like that. I believe it's called. But there's different methods, and they're not very hard to kind of configure. And I would assume, if you're already mainly playing on PC, that, you're familiar with working with these things out. It sucks that it's not in there natively, trust me, because every time I go to play the game, I have to remember to boot up freaking Joy to Key, because it's not going to, work otherwise. But I mean, it's a quick workaround. Not to excuse the fact that it wasn't there. I would have preferred to have the support there natively. But again, it's something that you can just, get over really quickly in terms of finding a way to make your pad or stick or choice just work,
And since we're in the PC topic too, if you do have a PC and you do plan to play this game, you have to make sure that you do whatever sacrifice you have to do if you don't have the rig for it. This game needs to be played at 60 FPS. If you play it at 30 FPS and so offline mode, it's like slow motion because the engine is made for 60 FPS, so it will like literally play it at 30 and everything synchronizes at 30. It looks like a soap opera. It's just extremely slow. Online, the game will actually skip the frames, but why would you want to skip the frame online in this game?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's the worst thing you would want in a fighter is to miss frames. So running this at 60 is necessary. They even have, via the launcher, a low system spec or low spec setting to ensure that you're playing it at the preferred 60 frames, which again is necessary. I'll say this much, though, for the game. It looks beautiful, man.
Oh, yeah, it looks
visually,
perfect.
It's stunning.
I mean, I was actually able to play the game at 4K on a 980 Ti. I lowered the graphics to a mix of medium/high, and it just looks stunning still. It was nice.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, when I moved it up to 4K, I mean, I left everything maxed, but it just dropped. So I was like, nope, I'll keep it at 1440.
Yeah, I feel it. When I popped it up on max and left it there, it was like 40, 30 frames. Like, no.
And at that point, what you're really getting is more AA. Because you're doing downsampling, whatever it is, via NVIDIA's thing. But 1440p looks amazing. And I'm doing, Cheech is doing native 1440.
Yeah, I was about to say, I don't do downsampling crap. So native.
Downsampling all of these is really applying more AA to the image, but it looks fantastic, man. I can't get over how awesome these characters look on screen and motion, everything.
Especially Chun-Li on the second player screen. If you guys don't know what that means, just search it up. Chun-Li second player.
Chun-Li in her alternate costume. Oh my god! Introduce me to this woman in real life. But yeah, have you played this at all, Greg? Have you had a chance to kind of sit down for a little bit?
No, after this. I mean, I played the betas, all of them. Even the one. Remember when we were having trouble with the first one? I was like, I got in.
I remember that.
So what we're gonna do after this is he's gonna give us his fighter ID. We're gonna create a lobby and just gonna beat him up.
Yeah, go for it. We'll see how that turns out.
Any words so far in terms of the PS4 issues with the game frames?
Well, okay. From what I hear with the PS4 version of Street Fighter V is that when you play on the offline mode, everything runs smoothly. 1080p, 60 frames per second.
1080p, man, that's like 10 years ago.
Yeah, I know, considering you guys are just talking about 1440. But there are certain stages when you are playing in the online mode where the frames tend to drop. Eurogamer is actually is one of the sites I go to just to look at these analysis because it's interesting. And they said that the frame drops, or from their scale that they visually show, drops down to about 55 frames per second. Not a big drop, but something noticeable. And the fact that it is doing it on the online mode and not on the offline mode means that it's just a netcode problem that they can probably fix.
That's what I was just going to mention. Considering it's rollback netcode, have they confirmed whether it's the actual performance of the game dropping or whether it's the fact that they're experiencing lag? Because rollback, you get that kind of teleporting look to it, which looks like you may be skipping a frame, but really what it's doing is taking you back to a prior frame.
There was a few online matches with the lag. That was fucking funny.
Yeah. See, but that's another thing. This game utilizes rollback netcode. essentially what rollback netcode is just that, as the name indicates. It kind of teleports you backwards. So normally in lag, it'll kind of hiccup or whatever, and it'll just continue from there. Whereas with rollback netcode, what it'll do is if it starts lagging, instead of continuing the fight and you ending up with however many health points you just lost, it'll take it back to the point prior to where it began to lag. So it kind of fixes that little anomaly there. The thing is that if you continue to experience lag, it's just going to become a teleporting thing where everything you see is constantly trying to revert backwards, and it becomes crazy. But rollback is usually good. If you're playing against somebody who's very far away, or the connection's not that great, that's when it's an issue. But otherwise, a little bit of rollback here and there is not too bad. You're still able to kind of continue the fight.
And if you don't want those type of scenarios where someone has a crappy connection, you do have the option to, set up, when you do search online, set up only 4 to 5 connection strength.
Well, when you were just talking about all that, I was just thinking about Hyper Street Fighter 2. If you ever remember that.
Yeah.
Doing fireballs in midair as Ken and Ryu, or infinite sonic booms.
I remember the infinite sonic booms, man. Oh, God.
That was a fun game.
Yeah.
Sonic Boom.
Well, Guile's at least coming out this year. I wonder how they're gonna change him.
Yeah, he used to be one of my fighters back in the day, so.
He's a good fighter.
So that mean the confirmed DLC characters? Who's that? Alex, definitely March.
Yeah, Alex is the freaking background of a freaking stage.
I hope he doesn't look exactly like that, though. I'm not big on the design, if that's the character in the background.
Could be his alternate.
Possibly. Alex, March, and then Guile, Ibuki, Balrog, Jury, and I think Urien is the last one.
Yes.
And then I'm assuming they're going to continue next year. It seems like, I'll say this much though, I'm not sure if you've noticed, Cheech, and you probably will too, Greg, but there's quite a few character appearances during the little story modes. And I feel like these are hints towards the characters that they will be including. And this is what kind of gets me excited for the game.
Q?
I didn't see any Q. Was there a Q?
I don't know. That's what I'm asking you. You guys had more time with the game than I had.
I didn't see Q in any of the story sections. You'll see them all. But there's some new additions in there too. There was a particular character that you see along the way that seems interesting, and uses psycho power also. So I'd like to see what that's about.
Ooh.
What gets me amped about this game is, as of now, it's only a 16 character roster. And some people may think that's too little, but usually with a fighter, you don't want to get too crazy in the amount of characters that you have. It kind of, the balance becomes hard to adjust because there's just so many characters. Look at Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom. They never really updated that game. There was a crap ton of characters. But they're going to be introducing new characters, and, that's kind of cool to see. If they're going to be doing it at this monthly basis.
Yeah, I think it's better off that way. Do it now with the characters that we have. Everybody get a chance to learn them, the weaknesses, the pros, and then one per month is enough to give people enough time to actually learn that character.
Yeah. What I'd like to compare this game to is kind of like a MOBA, right? The way they deliver their content, where they have new heroes coming out soon or something like that.
It's funny. That's how they mentioned how they wanted to market this. Kind of like the MOBA, where it's, alternate costumes and stuff like that would be what you would have to pay for to support the game, and the characters is just,
you can unlock.
Yeah. It's natural.
Yeah, and the thing is, you don't have to pay for it if you don't want to. You could just buy it through the fighter's point.
But yeah, it keeps everyone on with the same game at least. Unlike Call of Duty, where you have the different map packs, and then after the first map pack, boom, possibly half your, player base is split.
Yeah.
Because there's people who bought the map and people who didn't.
That's what happened with Halo 4, and that's why they changed it to Halo 5.
Yeah, and that's good with Halo 5.
And if we've learned anything with Street Fighter, is that Street Fighter sticks around for years. This game wasn't even going to come out till 2018 if it wasn't for Sony. So, it's usually, 4 lasted 8 years, I think it was?
4 was 2010.
2010, so, really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like 6 years?
About 5-6 years, yeah.
Okay. But yeah, that's a pretty long time for one game, right? And I mean, you see that now with other games lasting longer, and that's because they have these sorts of payment models, which actually seems to build larger communities around them, so long as they kind of maintain the audience's attention. But considering Street Fighter is usually the biggest fighter at the tournament level, there's a chance that this game may actually end up doing really, really well for Capcom.
Yeah, hopefully. If you guys say that the mechanics are really well done, then more power to them.
Yeah, I mean, the fighting is solid, man. It's just solid as hell.
I mean, is the Natco better than Mortal Kombat? Then don't answer
that. Oh, leagues better, man. Leagues better. But with the new update, they introduced the same type of netcode. I don't know how it's working out for them. I haven't gone back to that game since they abandoned PC.
Yeah. Blame that WB. You don't even get the Season 2 characters that you have to pay $30 for.
Yeah.
On top of a $60 game. Well, that's another thing. People complaining about the rosters. Mm-hmm. Like, Mortal Kombat used the same engine, so they didn't do too many modifications, so they could have easily just made more characters. Street Fighter V is built off Unreal 4 from the ground up. Mm-hmm. So when you have to build something very meticulous from the ground up, that's going to take a lot of time. I think, and like you said, I think 16 characters is actually pretty good and for newcomers and veterans just to learn, especially with a new system.
Yep, and by the end of the year, we'll have 22, so it's quickly going to rise, and I don't know, this is GOATY right here. Officially, for Ariel.
Already?
Already.
It's only February.
Well, the reason I say that is because I love it as it is now, so it can only get better, right? And this is something I'm going to be playing for a long time, so.
I don't know.
I mean, in terms of, usually when you look back at your game of the year, it's the game you had the most fun with, and you played the most, and that's going to be this game for me.
I think it's going to eat us words later.
Yeah, we'll see.